Hi, I'm Mike, owner of the Groove in Phoenix, Arizona. Today I'm going to show you guys some of the recent acquisitions that I've made. Stuff that's come into the store, stuff that I've sought out on eBay, stuff that I found in boxes in the back of the store that I had forgot I already owned, and just now I'm bringing them into the collection. I've been doing a lot of collection sorting here lately. I really need to slim some stuff down. It's getting obnoxious again, and I've just committed to not adding any more rooms of records, no more shelves of records. So I've actually spent most of the day today kind of doing a purge. And I think what I'm going to do is actually a couple of whatnot videos. I'm going to do a couple of auctions, just nothing but records from my collection. I've just got, some stuff's just getting out of hand. Some records I just have 20, 30 copies of, and they're all really clean copies. It's not, I don't bring home junk. So I think I'm going to set up a whatnot for it because I'm still bringing stuff home that I'd rather have more. So there's definitely space that needs to be made. But this first record, oh God, if you're only going to have like X amount of records in your collection, this is definitely going to be one that's on your list. Okay, so the first one is Hank Mobley's Blue Note 1560. This is an original mono, first pressing. This is a record that I didn't know if I would ever have. And the reason being is the Jazz Record Center recently had a auction and they got north of $10,000 for this record. Now, granted, it was a record that I think maybe visually on the vinyl, or, the vinyl might have been really, really close to this because this is a super cherry copy. But they had a cover that was significantly whiter. You could tell there's a lot more weathering on this. It's kind of a yellowish color. And they had a cover that was a little bit more in the white range, but I paid a fraction of that price for this. So, and it's kind of a cool story of how I got it. I got a text message from Norman Maslov via Mike from the Jazz Bums and said, "Hey, check this out." It was like he was trying to get a hold of me, and he's check this record out. And I looked at that. It was on eBay. And I'm like looking at the auction, and I'm like, it was a buy it now, I think, a little under $2,000 maybe. And I'm looking at it like, and the guy's like graded VG plus, not a mark on it, conservatively graded. I'm looking at the cover. I'm thinking to myself, it can go either way because the cover does show that weathering. I mean, overall, it's really nice. Let me show it to you. But there's some wear on the cover. You can see the back. There's no chipping on the spine, which is really nice. That's typically something that's somewhat common. You'd get the spine chipping. But I'm like, let's take a shot at it. Let's see what this puppy looks like. So I bought it, and I got a message from the guy. "Oh, Mike, I'm so glad this is going to you. I watch you on YouTube." I'm like, "Oh, this is fantastic." This is a guy who, he's probably a record guy. He didn't just find this in, at a Goodwill, looked it up on eBay, and it's like, "Oh, this is worth some money. I know nothing about records, but let me sell this." And, all the grading and all that would have been nonsense. But sent it to me. It arrived. Sonically great. Not a pop on this thing. It's just absolutely fantastic. I emailed him back, and I'm like, "Hey, man, you mind me asking?" I didn't want... what he paid was irrelevant, but I like to know the stories with records. I'm like, where the hell did you find this? I see a lot of jazz records. I see a lot of records, period. Records like this, you never see. These are like, people talk about Grail records. Hank Mobley, original 1500 series Blue Note records. These are like the definition of Grail records. These things are very, very, very scarce. They just do not show up. And he's like, I was record digging, and I was at a record store. I think he might have been out of town. I was at somewhere on the East Coast. I'm at a record store, and they had nothing. I wandered down the street. I went into a bookstore, he told me, and found a couple of like Liberty pressings, so some jazz stuff, but nothing high caliber. And he just asked the guy running the bookstore, "Hey, you got anything else, like kind of this jazz type of stuff here?" And the guy, I guess, behind the counter pulls out some records. Lo and behold, that was in it. I'd have died if that happened to me. Especially because I would, he might have got it for a smoking price. I don't know. But even if he didn't, just to be able to like, oh, I happen to have this, would have been mind-boggling. That'd have been crazy. So, yeah, super glad to get it. Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Norman. Thanks, guy on eBay, who I forgot your name. Maybe you didn't even tell it to me, actually. But great record. A record I didn't have. I committed a couple years back to get all of the Sonny Clark records. You know, I've got a lot of the key Blue Note 1500 series titles, but I've not made the commitment on the Hank Mobley stuff because, you know, the prices are crazy. This was in a box I've had for maybe 2 or 3 years. I saw it, I'm like, I didn't even realize I owned this record. This is an original of the Baby Huey story. This record is so difficult to find. It was reissued, I don't know if it was a record store day, but I want to say the Run Out Groove did it. I think the Run Out Groove did it. But this is an original, first pressing, just unplayed, super clean. I was blown away when I found this. I've never had this record come, well, technically I had this one come into the store, although I have no clue where the hell it came from. But I've never had this record come into the store outside of this. But I guess now that I think about it, forgetting that this was this might have been a collection in my defense. I never actually looked through it. Because sometimes I buy collections and I go to somebody's house and I go through a very large percentage of it. And, you know, we get to a deal and maybe I don't see every single record. So, yeah. This is a great record. Very difficult to find. Okay. This next record right here came out as just a run-of-the-mill record maybe about 6 months ago on a New Arrival video. Hey, I got this Pino D'Angio. This looks interesting. I should give it a listen to, and then I never did. But Dee, who works at the shop, who actually watches the videos, I think she's the only one that works for me that actually watches the video. Very unique. Everybody that works at the In-Groove, they don't watch the YouTube videos. Matter of fact, if I put the YouTube videos on, it induces like a facial tick. But that's besides the point. Dee watches the videos. She heard me say that, and one day I'm in the back room and she's playing this, and I'm like, man, that's awesome. What the hell is this? And I go over to her phone and I'm like, Pino D'Angio is Italian disco, by the way. I'm like, this is fantastic. So I went up front and I streamed it on the big stereo because she has like a little tiny speaker. And I'm playing it, and this is just absolute magic. This is a magical Italian disco record. So this is like straight disco funk, but Pino talks in Italian, so I can only give you, I have no clue what he's saying, but I can only tell you kind of the vibe you get from this record. The vibe you get from this record is kind of spoken word, like dimly lit room, him talking, and almost kind of like in an actor. Maybe it's because of my love for things like William Shatner that I get drawn to this, but there's this, you got to stream it, I guess go and stream this record and tell me what you guys think. It's absolutely fantastic. But there's high-pitched, like, falsetto singing over him. He's doing kind of almost spoken Italian, kind of James Earl Jones vibes, but in Italian, over heavy funk disco, and then there's a guy that breaks in with falsetto. It's freaking fantastic. Anyways, when I heard this, I'm like, I must get an original of this. And on the spot, I found a guy who had a sealed copy in Italy, and I bought this sealed in Italy. I think it was like $200, but I had to own it. It's fantastic. Okay, this next record, a guy brought in just like a full grip of maybe like 10, maybe the first 10 Red Garland records, and they were all in like marginal-ish shape. But the one record that was not in marginal shape that I didn't have an original of, I think I have an OJC of this, but I didn't have an original of this, and I do now, and it's fantastic. This was in fantastic shape with the original wax paper inner. This is Red in Bluesville, Red Garland on Prestige. Beautiful shape. Cover's in beautiful shape. The record's in beautiful shape. Yeah. So anytime you can, I'm picking up a clean prestige. I've got most of the great prestige. Not that this is like a high caliber prestige title, but during about 2018 to 2022, jazz kind of saw a big resurgence, and everybody was like Blue Note, Blue Note, Blue Note. But the Prestige and like Riverside and like the other labels were just not going up at the great clip that Blue Note was going up. So I kind of used that as my opportunity to pick up all the key missing Prestige titles that I didn't have. But for the most part, I have most of them. But there's a couple like ancillary titles I didn't have, and this is one of them because I focused on the high money titles. I'd like the Tommy Flanagan Overseas, the Hank Mobleys, the saxophone, the Saxophone Colossus, those types of records that hadn't really gone up crazy like the Blue Note counterparts. And I always thought, man, these are really undervalued for what they are. Rudy Van Gelder recordings, the same jazz greats on a different label, and really the only thing that separated the Blue Note from Prestige is there was a little bit more rehearsal time paid for a Blue Note title as opposed, I don't know if there was, I don't think there was any rehearsals on Prestige. I think it was like one day. Go record this record, you're done. But I think Blue Note might have been a day and then go record this record, you're done. But that's kind of balanced out a little bit more now. They've gone up a little bit the last couple of years. So yeah, that's the reason I did it. You get price memory. You think to yourself like, oh, I remember when, and then you end up not buying something. And I've tried to dissuade myself from doing that because everything goes up. And if you have that price mentality, you have that price memory, you just end up being at the point where I don't want to buy anything because back in my day, Coca-Cola was a nickel, that type of thing. So you can't be that way. But in this case, I was, but that's what made me get all the Prestige titles. Okay, so this next collection. This is mostly a collection. Actually, all of these other records I'm going to show you came in. Guy came in with a buddy. He's like, hey, I had a friend pass away. He worked for a magazine in Chicago, and he has a box of records. You want to take a look at it? I'm like, all right, yeah, I always take a look at those, and it's always, what magazine did he work? Well, he worked at the Reader's Digest. Here's a bunch of box sets. That's kind of where I was thinking. He worked at Rolling Stone, and the box of records was unbelievable. It was like played once, stuff that you absolutely never ever see. So I'll start here. In the shrink, this is Green River on green vinyl, and this guy's records were just immaculate, perfect shape. Fantastic. Look at this. Green River. The next record. Mudhoney. Super Fuzz Big Muff with a ticket stub. He saw Mudhoney and the Lemonheads at Bogart's August 31st, 1989 at 9:30 p.m. and it cost him $8 for that privilege. $8. Now, this next record, this was the jewel. Now, unfortunately, most of the stuff that was in this collection was like super duper first pressing. This is the first black pressing, but look at this. Nirvana's Bleach. This is a first pressing on black vinyl, so technically second pressing. The first, they did 1,000 copies on white vinyl. The second, they did the black vinyl. I'm looking for a white vinyl, but I want like a cherry copy, and cherry copies are not that easy to find. I want a copy in white vinyl that looks like this, but look at this. Original price tag with the year on it, 1989. Cost them $6.79. It's in the shrink. This record is in fantastic shape. Couldn't have been more thrilled. You'll notice there was a Sub Pop theme here. And like I said, what's a bummer about this collection is everything, for the most part, was the colored variant first press. For instance, like this Tad 8-Way Santa on green vinyl. This was bought at Reckless in Chicago for $7.49. Absolutely fantastic story with this. They found this this photograph came from a Polaroid they found in a coat pocket at a Goodwill, I think, like a thrift store. And they just thought this photo, which it clearly is so freaking fantastic. They used it as their album cover. Well, the people that are in the photograph caught wind of it, and I guess they were born again Christians at this point in time, and decided that this wasn't the best photograph of them to have out there. And it's become more legendary because of it. We call that the Streisand effect. And yeah, there we go. The first uncensored photograph. This collection was great. Look at this. Green River. This is on a black vinyl. This was from Wax Trax, $6.50. Mostly Sub Pop stuff. There was a few other non-Sub Pop records. I guess maybe there was about 30% non-Sub Pop records. All from the same era, but I kept mostly just the Sub Pop stuff. Soundgarden. This comes from Dr. Wax Records. They buy records. $6.49. In the Shrink. I mean, look how perfect this is. It's fantastic. Again, all the same collection. Mudhoney with the gimmick fold-out cover, black vinyl. This is a record that is extremely heavily bootlegged, but yeah, this is an original. The 12-inch of Love Buzz, which is great because I have two 7-inches of Love Buzz, so now I've got the first 12-inch of Love Buzz, the non-counterfeit version. Some so here's another, what is this? You know, still Sub Pop. Tad. With the hype sticker. Comes with a man-sized poster. And this was cool. I need to open this. It's a record that I was missing. Like I said, there was some non-Sub Pop stuff in the collection, and this is one of those non-Sub Pop records. This is The Cramps. Stay Sick from 1990. This cost $8.97. This is still sealed. I don't have it, so I'm going to open it and I'm going to give it a listen to. This and A Date with Elvis were in the collection. The Date with Elvis was actually pretty played, where this guy's whole collection was like near mint to played once to unplayed-ish looking. That was like VG, so I ended up selling it. That was cool too because it had a ticket stub as well. Actually, one of these Mudhoneys has a ticket stub on it as well. I must have put it inside the jacket. That'd have been cool to show you guys. But yeah, pretty solid week of stuff. This is not really a week. This is a couple, 2-3 weeks of stuff bringing home. But kind of some of the highlights. There's some like non-exciting records I took home. Like I found a super mint copy of Tony Bennett's I Left My Heart in San Francisco. Like in shrink, beautiful. First pressing disc in near mint. Never find that record in that shape. It's just not that exciting. So I don't show stuff like that. But I don't know. I told you about it, so I probably should have showed it to you. But check us out online at theingroove.com. Until next time.